Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We talk everything animation here, including Rick and Morty, which we'll be getting into today. I'm Dylan Hysen, and welcome to our panel discussion for this week's episode of Rick and Morty, the Ricklantis Mixup, slash spoiler alert. So tune out now if you've not seen, obviously, the episode. Slash Tales from the Citadel. So we will be getting into this very notable episode of Rick and Morty, much like we do every week here, twice a week at the Overly Animated Podcast. You can search for Overly Animated Rick and Morty to subscribe to our Rick and Morty only iTunes feed to not miss any Rick and Morty podcasts, or we're a general animation podcast, so find our other shows that we talk about at overlyanimated.com. Check out our recap podcast that Delaney, Michelle, and I did earlier in the week for this episode. But other than that, let's get into our panel. We have 4 panelists here who will be answering our questions about this episode, and they will be graded arbitrarily on their responses, and we will see who emerges victorious in the most meaningless title in all of podcasting. So,
woo! I don't even win anything.
Yeah, I feel like you guys should have been more offended at that. But okay, so don't you want this? Come on, guys. So
if anything, Rick and Morty has taught us that everything is meaningless.
Yeah, that's true. It's in theme with the show, I think.
It's more meaningful than any animation category at the Emmys.
Oh, that is true. Burn, yeah.
Pixar doesn't win at this category, so hey.
Yeah, they also.
We love.
Yeah, let's throw the Annies in there too. Anyway, so let's get into things. I think they've all talked, so you've at least heard them a little bit. But no, we'll jump right into the questions. So yeah, there they are. You guys I'll say hi quickly. Let's try that.
Hi.
Hi, everybody.
One of you, okay, that didn't work. Okay, so anyway, here's the first question. What would the Ricklantis Mixup, and by the way, I just want to say, there's a lot of hype surrounding this episode. Don't feel beholden to agree with the opinions on the recap podcast. Just want to say that.
What if we all hate it? You don't even know
express any opinions here, and you will be graded accordingly.
Joke's on you, didn't listen to the recap. Sorry.
Wow. Oh my god. You think they're
a busy week, okay?
You think they're joking. Okay, anyway, so let's get into things. First of all, we have April. I didn't say the question. What is your grade for this episode? So A to F on whatever your grading scale is. What's your episode grade for the Ricklantis Mix-Up? First is April Collins.
A is for April, and that is the same grade that I'm giving this episode. There was a lot going on, a lot of different sort of storylines, I guess, to follow, but it worked very, very well. Also, called it, we did not go to Atlantis. Rick and Morty might have, but we did not, and I just want to give myself a pat on the back for calling that.
Look, if I remembered who said that last podcast, I might assign points, but I absolutely don't. So that's not happening. But yeah.
Oh, it was me.
Okay.
You guys can all listen to it.
can't verify.
But yeah, this episode worked really, really well, and I really enjoyed it. I loved all of the different interactions between the Ricks and the Mortys, and the craziness that was going on in the Citadel. So A from April.
A from April. Okay. Maybe I'm expecting all your answers to start with A now, or else you'll lose points. Okay, so.
Yay!
Yeah, we'll see when that'll be impossible. Yeah, so April goes first because she was our returning champion from 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. I don't know. Anyway, she hadn't been on the previous one. So next up, after a long return, is John McKenna. John, what's your episode grade for the Ricklantis Mix-Up?
Hi, everybody. And as much as I have been sort of regretting doing this because I really wanted to hold it, I cannot hold it in any longer. This one's an A. It was, maybe because I have a soft spot for a Tales of Ba Sing Se episode of Avatar, but this one was just so well done. It was such a playful use of just the number of Ricks and the number of Mortys and how they're able to make so many different characters on just two base characters and one voice. It was great. You have this great lead-in for hopefully we come back to the Citadel. The plot lines were all great. They all wove in together. Such a fun episode to watch. I love the surprise. It's difficult to find a reason why it's not an A, so I'm not going to. It's an A.
It's an A. That's 2 in a row now from our panelists giving an episode an A. We'll see if this trend continues. Okay, here is Brit Griffin. What's your episode grade, Brit? Oh, song.
It was wonderful. Thank you. I'm tone deaf. It was amazing. I loved all the interactions. They essentially used like two like stereotype characters and made like a whole plot, like a whole world. It was amazing. And it was like the different facets of them all like amplified, like the little things that we get, and they were just like, let's make this extreme. Morty's deep-seated resentment, his empathy, his all the other words I can't read what I wrote down. But yes. And then all of like Rick's things, like each little facet of the personalities we've seen like kind of molded over the years, just like amplified, and I was all for it. And it was really funny. So
nice. Yeah. Okay, so that's 3 A's now. Alex, another A name. Will you bring us home?
Hello.
Alex Bonilla, yes.
Yeah, so
what were you singing?
Well, instead of hola, I was saying allo because to start with an A.
Okay.
But according to your rating system. But yeah, so a plug for our overly animated Patreon group. If you want to support us via Patreon, you will have access to that Facebook group. But there I wrote the 3 minutes into the episode, it was already the best episode of the season, just hitting the simple Rick gag. And by the time it was over, it just kept getting better and better somehow. So by the end, you guys have all just given normal A's, right? So I believe I'll be the hot taker here, A+, and best episode of the series.
Whoa!
Just amazing how it manages to like have 4 different plot lines all be entertaining at the same time. And also how it works, so like it's so entertaining from the beginning, and then by the end, it manages to do a huge build up, and then the twist at the end is even more amazing. Just its execution, like the music hits hard. And like the amazing part is, I actually didn't even like at first when I watched it, the whole. Well, I guess we're going to spoilers, right? Just for the entire episode.
Oh yeah, we're in there.
Yeah. So by the time the evil Morty picture showed up, like I had actually not even remembered that, or at least it hadn't come into my mind when I was watching this episode. So like even without that twist, it was still an amazing episode. And then just adding to that, like cemented it as just like the most Rick and Morty has ever done in an episode and be successful at all of it. So A+ for me, and nothing has surpassed it.
Well, what do you mean nothing has surpassed it? It's the latest episode.
So far. Like, no other episode has been as...
No other episode has aired since you declared it the best episode. Okay. So I believe I've declared the scale as A to F. I don't know if an A+ is in play here.
Well, schools give A+.
My college did not give A+. I don't know.
Your college was
I don't remember getting A+.
That's because Dylan went to real college.
Yeah, well, I also wouldn't have gotten A+. But other than that, yeah. So there. Okay. Ignoring that slight oversight. Yeah. So we'll be grading out of 5 on this. Everyone loved the episode. I'm sure there's a few listeners not happy that their opinion is not represented. But I don't know. I can't. I'm not.
Deal with it.
I'm not telling these people what to think. This is Alex had the hottest take, so he'll get a 5 on this. I like going to the extreme here, and the rest of you had solid takes, but none of you had that hot of takes, so you get 4s. Okay, there you go. But
that's fine, I guess.
Yeah,
I'll take it.
Okay, I don't like that. You got to shoot higher here. Come on.
Hooray for recency bias.
Yeah. Also, recency bias might be at play. Alex, you may or may not lose a bonus point. We've been covering BoJack Horseman here, and we have not gotten to this episode yet. But the second to last episode of the season of BoJack Horseman, is this episode better?
This is a
These
hard
are two
choice.
of the best TV episodes of the year so
yes,
far.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think. Okay.
It's quicker because no one cares that they're listening to us. But yeah.
Yeah. But
People don't know
I think I want to lean towards this one, just like in how consistently funny it is. Like in entertainment value, this one is the best by far. The other one I think works better with emotional depth, and it depends on what you're looking for in an animated show.
Very representative of their respective shows. Yes. Okay. So plug for our BoJack.
I'd lean slightly toward Rick and Morty.
I think I'm with you on that, but we'll see. BoJack Horseman coverage at overlyanimated.com. Okay, so let's get into our second, very relevant, the 2 best adult animated shows on TV on air right now. So this is pretty great. The second question here, which is, who was your favorite Morty of the episode. So obviously I'll ask about your favorite Rick later, but there are, we saw a lot of Mortys, not as many as Ricks. But you need to pick a favorite. So who is your favorite Morty? Please don't repeat an answer that someone previous said. There's a lot of options here. Okay. John, you're first up.
I'm going to go with Slick Morty. Mostly because it was a great sort of play on the overly dramatic type. And I'm a big Stand By Me fan. It's one of my favorite movies. So I loved how he was the River Phoenix character. I hope I got the right Phoenix. But I love how it's like he's being this over dramatic. They say, dude, what's wrong? He's like, I'm a experimental Morty. I was meant to be dramatic, and I make everybody sad, and I'm a little boring. And then and of course, in dramatic fashion, he throws himself into the wishing portal, hoping that, the world changes and all that. So I loved how they made it so tropey, and it was still hilarious, even though it wasn't supposed to be. So I got to go with Slick Morty on this one.
Slick Morty. Strong choice. Okay. Brit, who is your favorite Morty?
My favorite Morty was Angry Cop Morty.
Okay. Cop Morty, yes.
He was so much fun. He was like, who gives a fuck? And he just like shoves his gun in people's mouths. And he was just all around like really terrible. And I liked his little like manipulative like scene at the end. Or at the end? Yeah, at the end with Rick where he's like pretending to be like doing normal, quote, quote, Morty things. Yeah. Like, I just want to be a normal kid and go home and masturbate. And then he like shoots the guy, and then he turns around and shoots Rick, but Rick's like, nope.
Yeah.
And it was very great. He was just like all around terrible, but he was like fun terrible. So I enjoyed it.
Nice. Okay. Cop Morty there from Brit. Yeah, that scene, very interesting. Okay. Alex, you're up. Who's your favorite Morty?
Am I penalized for choosing a Morty here?
Look, you're still on thin ice here.
Your answer will reveal
Alex, I'll say this. There's a way not to choose a Morty, but I'll leave that up to you. Okay.
I know what it is, and I almost picked it. But I left it open for you, so you better use it.
Okay, I think I realized too. But yeah, I'll take the obvious answer here. It is presidential candidate Morty, later revealed to be evil Morty. Just the way that like his speech is in such a way that like it reveals so many feelings that like we've seen from our Morty in the past of just like how Rick treats Morty, and here he expands it to the entire Citadel and somehow also gets like other Ricks on his side. The way he treats his campaign manager in such a slick way, and like the fact that I somehow believe that he was just like a normal Morty who was fed up with the system. All the way up to that twist where it ends up being that we've seen this Morty before, but like somehow he convinced me that this would be a believable path for a Morty to take, but also being able to manipulate everyone in such a like an amazing sub key way, like he was amazing in this episode, and he was my favorite. Great climax.
Okay, Evil Morty. It fell to number 3. That's a good spot there. Okay, April, who's your favorite Morty?
Cowboy Morty.
Yeah.
All he did was.
Oh no!
Duh, everybody. He just has a cowboy hat on and some guns, and he's just dancing. He's not even doing anything like cowboy-like. He's just dancing there, and then whenever everyone starts shooting. He's like, these are just props. These are just props. And the first time I watched it, I was like, why is he saying that? I don't understand. And then on my second watch, I was like, oh, he's got toy guns. That's so cute. He thinks that they're going to shoot him. And then he just delivers like that classic, like, all right, well, I'm going to mosey on out of here. Bye.
Yes.
Best Morty.
Yes, you did. You said all of the interactions that Morty had in the episode, but still very notable.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. These are all good choices. 5 points all around here. Obviously, even Morty's the right answer, but these are all good choices. No love for Big Morty.
I do want to give honorable mention to campaign manager Morty. I liked him because he seemed like the most normal Morty of all of them, but also like the one that I could relate to. Like he knows something's up.
Yeah.
And so like he was a good character in this episode too.
He was the only Morty that I rooted for.
What about the K-22's Morty from the very beginning of the episode? He was so nice. He waved. He was
so nice.
Yeah.
And then my favorite part is they literally tell him. They literally tell him like, "Oh yeah, we're the ones who destroyed the Citadel," and he's like, "Oh well, then you'll be glad to know that the Citadel is no longer there."
Yeah, he could be like Pleasant Morty, like yeah.
I was like, oh, what an adorable idiot!
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I really like him. Also, Fat Morty, Liz's Morty, and Glasses Morty. No, not chosen here.
He's left-handed Morty.
Okay, left-handed Morty. Right.
he thought he was left-handed Morty.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I might have picked Glasses Morty here just for the absurdity. So there you go. Okay. Yeah, 5 points all around. Good answers. Let's get into the funniest line of the episode. I think Brit's up first here.
My favorite line of the episode is when the little Mortys get caught and they throw their hands like the kids' Mortys, like Glasses Morty and Left-Handed Morty and Flick Morty and that one other Morty, Lizard Morty. Yeah. And one of them goes, hell, hell, holy hell, oh, hell, hell. And he just like says it a bunch of times. It's not very clever, but it was very Morty and I deeply enjoyed it.
Okay.
Dylan.
Yeah.
That's why I picked it.
Okay. I feel like you're already anticipating me taking off points, but I haven't said anything yet. But
it was simple. You usually like the big lines,
yeah,
but it was still my favorite.
Yeah. It is a very Morty line. Yeah, that's in the Mortiest group with the 4 kid Mortys. Okay. Interesting choice
Yes.
there. Alex, you're up. What's the funniest line of the episode?
So when we cut to the debate happening, General Rick, more lasers. Moderator, you have more time to offer your opinion, and then just dead silence. that exchange is amazing.
Doesn't matter what the question is. That's the answer.
Yeah.
More lasers.
Yeah. They get.
He was ahead in the polls.
Was he the? I don't remember.
Mhm.
Okay. I'll yeah.
He had 37 to everyone's 21.
Yeah. The general leading it. Yeah, they gave that joke time to land. I think that was well done. Okay, April, funniest line of the episode.
Whenever Cop Morty and Cop Rick were in the car, and those like Morty protesters walk by the car, and Cop Morty goes, "They're more riled up than seeing Jessica dressed up on picture day." It just tickled me so much that was like the way that he would describe it in such a way that Rick would understand, like, but also because he's a Morty, so he should understand his own kind. But then but like even before that, whenever the one Morty like hops on the hood and he's like, Mortys are human too, and I was like, well, no, duh, idiot.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah.
Okay.
More riled up than seeing Jessica dressed up on picture day.
Yeah. Okay. Strong one there. Last, John.
I wish incest porn would have more mainstream appeal.
Very timely, Joe.
Yeah, exactly. That's why it was just so ridiculous. It's like at first you would think it would come from a glasses wearing Morty, but then again, if you think about it, if they're all sort of variations of Morty, he is a teenager, and let's assume this guy watches Game of Thrones. All he had to do is really just hop over to Earth, and he'd have all the incest porn he could possibly want. So
Or
maybe
he could
he's
just,
talking
like,
about incest porn with his own sister.
Yeah, that's
No, he's
okay. We're not getting into that, but that is the question. Does he mean in general or for
what if it's a Morty and a Morty?
The creepy
I guess
Morty was already a place. We saw it.
Yeah, let's get into
It was
the
there.
what different dimensions mean for this. Yeah, okay, no. Okay. John had
What if there was a female Morty and then a Morty and a Morty had a baby?
Yeah, I think there is a female Morty in one of these episodes. So.
Yeah, no, there was.
Yeah.
It actually was a Mabel Morty and it was a Dipper Morty.
Yeah, there's a Mabel Morty, yeah. So Gravity Falls. It's
I forgot about
a lot of
that.
great Gravity Falls background eggs. Yeah, so in risk of getting into this deeper, we'll cut it off here. John had the funniest line out of the 4 you said. That's definitely 5 points. So I feel bad taking out points on this question, but I will justify it by saying this says funniest line, not favorite line. So I feel, and obviously it's subjective. This is dumb grading, but I'm gonna give.
Yeah, I guess to us it's the same thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna give Brit a 3, Alex a 3, and then because they weren't that. I mean, I think Alex was funny. It's not the funniest line of the episode. And then April.
No, it's the funniest. Okay, just go.
April gets a 4 because you picked a very funny line. I think you got the line wrong though. So look up. We got to look up the.
I'm gonna Google it.
Yeah. So I have it here. Let me see if I can. I can get it up here. Yeah, the election got these yellow shirts more riled up than a Picture J Jessica. So come on, get the exact line. Okay, so that is one of the funniest lines of the episode. Okay, so I'll calculate the scores as we go through, but that's 5 John, 4 April, 3 Brit, 3 Alex. So next question is which satirical plot line worked the best for you? You could argue they're like just more satirical based on movies than like what they're parodying themselves. First, we have the cop plot line, Training Day-ish. We have the kids plot line, Stand By Me. The factory worker one. I don't have exact movie comp for that, but there's a lot of them. Or the politician one. I forgot the movie that one is doing. Also very House of Cards-ian. So which of these 5 plot lines work the best for you? I'll say cut the politician one off before we get into any of the Evil Morty stuff. So try to base it on its own before the twist. Let's start here with Alex.
Okay. I think I still go with the politician one, even if we cut off the Evil Morty stuff, because it's very interesting to see how like the Morty dynamic has gotten to a point where there is this Morty who is willing to upend the system, right? He gives this amazing speech where like they teach Mortys we're all the same because they fear what makes us unique, and you get that hammered home in like the school segment where the teacher Rick is teaching them all to say the same things and all. And it also just seeing how he rises through the ranks in confidence, is able to use his manipulation, like with the fake assassination. It seems that he knew that as a Morty he would mess it up and all. So and him exerting his power at the end, getting all the Ricks together just to kill them off, giving that amazing non-speech like as the music swells. I think all in all, that one was the most interesting plot line to watch develop, and definitely the most satisfying to see its conclusion.
Okay, so 1 vote for the politician plotline there. That is consistent with what you said previously. So, answer accepted. April, what is your which of these 4 worked the best for you?
I enjoyed the Training Day cops plot line just because, like, you see that cop Morty was more so like in a Rick kind of role. Get it. But sorry, I laughed at myself.
Was it intentional? Points
No,
are on the
really
line
wasn't.
here. Okay, good.
No, it was not intentional. but I like because he's like more Rick than the cop Rick is, and he's like, oh yeah, it's just Morty's killing Mortys out here, like. It's an everyday thing, and I also like that there's like this whole like underground like Morty society that exists on the Citadel, and I couldn't imagine that like actually being allowed by Ricks, like to let Mortys like group up like that, even if they are without a Rick. I feel like they would have found a better way to dispose of them than just letting them still exist on the Citadel. So that's my favorite one, and I enjoyed like how in the end he ends up killing Cop Morty because he's a dirty cop, like, and then he's like, "Oh, it's just a Rick killing Mortys out here," and I was like, "Oh, okay, cool."
Nice. Okay, so
Totally normal.
Yeah, like it's a normal thing, like.
Yeah, that's just the way the world works. That's what I was trying to say. Yeah. 1 vote for cops, 1 vote for a politician plotline. What say you, John?
I gotta go with actually the factory plotline. I know I spoke a lot about the Stand By Me one, but this one, I felt like this one was a little bit better because you kind of marry it a little bit with the political line where he said, you know, where Ricks work for a fraction of what their bosses pay despite having the same IQ, and you could sort of understand that in the worker that eventually took everybody hostage. I mean, he is still a Rick, and his job is to put wafers together. You think like anyone with Rick's level internet would be driven completely bonkers that that's his job. So it makes sense that he would eventually try and capture a hostage, try to get off this planet because he knows he can do better in almost any other universe in any other place other than the Citadel. And then he sort of realized that he is a Rick. They try the trick with the portal guns, the blender dimension. He sends Simple Rick through it, and he goes, "It's the oldest trick in the book. I'm a Rick. Do you really think that would have fooled me?" And then they realize, well, you just gave up your leverage, and he winds up running the whole shop because, you know, Rick the Third shows up and gives him his freedom by shooting him in the back of the head, and he winds up and he winds up becoming the new Simple Rick. So it's sort of funny at the same time. You think things are gonna work well for him, but then he just up and dies at the end, which is both very dark and very grisly, but also very funny that's the way it ends. He becomes the new stuck in a trance Rick who winds up selling all the wafers.
Yes. Yeah, definitely loving Simple Rick. I'm sure we'll hear more about that in a second. So, one vote for everything except the Stand By Me plotline. Brit, what's your choice here?
My choice is going to be the same as April's, the Training Day Cops. It had my favorite Morty in it. The Rick and Morty dynamic in that one was particularly interesting, especially the dichotomy and how they played off of each other. I'm always a fan of characters who do that. And then we had like the greatest amount of time spent with them. We saw them, the most of like what their world was like in the Citadel. If you only have two types of people in the world, essentially like what happens. And I feel like the rest of the episode without this plotline would not have worked as well. Like the politician plotline doesn't work really without this one because you don't really understand the day-to-day social aspects of this world. Like what happens when you graduate the kid's school and you don't get a Rick. This is what happens to you. And then you don't understand the political one if you don't have this one because you don't really understand what's at stake for the people who are voting, or the Mortys who are voting. Some of the Ricks too. And then the factory workers, you get like the Rick side of what happens if you're not like uppity up in this society. But I also liked the commentary on cops and violence, and like this is obviously mirroring like a black neighborhood and like a black cop who didn't thought he was above the law and didn't like his own people. So I was like, ooh,
yeah, getting into some serious
Rick
stuff.
and Morty, you're laying it down thick.
Yeah.
It was definitely my favorite.
Okay.
So.
Okay. There you go. So no votes for the kids. Sad, but that is the weakest one. So good answers all around here. April and John get 4s because I could do with less telling me exactly what happened in the plot line. More analysis, less recap. That's my motto here. Alex gets a 5. I don't even remember. It was too long ago, but I'm going to assume it was good. And Brick,
good assumption.
Brick gets a 6, actually. I really like that answer. That was the best analysis we got into. I think that none of the others work without that one. I feel like that's the way to approach that question.
Well,
so.
Actually, I just want to add, I think the genius of this episode is that all the plot lines are related to each other, because I think you could turn that too, that the cops plot line doesn't work as well without the other plot lines as well, because you need the politics one to show you, like with the cops, just how the system works, how the Rick and Mortys interact.
No, because he talks about like these Mortys don't have a Rick, so they just like don't have a sidekick to kick, so they just start kicking. And like all of Morty's like bad personality traits, just like I think the factory one would have worked okay by itself. They just wouldn't be as funny.
But would that be like then the reverse of like, oh well, these are the Ricks who don't have Mortys kind of thing? So
yeah, this is a larger debate, but I think it's at least
we'll move on.
Yeah, I think it's at least a good rebuttal here from Alex. That would have been my rebuttal. So I'm gonna give Alex a point for that. I'm not saying either one of you is right or wrong, but that's the next that would be the next like the counterpoint to what Bert was saying. But I still think it's a great point on its own for Bert. Okay, so before that round, John was winning, but then we're adding numbers, and I'm going to add while you're talking. So we'll see what's happening after the next one. What is the funniest gag of the episode here? This is going to heavily depend on who I call on first. Who went first last time? It was Alex, I think. Yeah. So April, you're up first. What was the funniest gag of the episode?
The funniest gag to me was that anyone who cares about what's happening in the Citadel is an idiot. Funniest gag, because they start off the episode with that, and then the entire episode is exactly what's going on in the Citadel. And then even at the end like bit, they're like, and Rick's like, I still don't care what was going on in the Citadel because it doesn't directly it doesn't directly impact our lives. And I was like, oh, cool. Thank you for calling me an idiot, because I cared what was going on in the Citadel while you showed me what was going on in the Citadel. So bravo to you, gentlemen. Bravo.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like you're talking about like the setup of the episode with like the framing device. Yeah.
And if I may add, the conclusion is funny because actually the way Rick says is this will never have an impact on me, even though with the evil Morty thing, it's made so that it's made in such a way that you are led to believe this is going to have an impact. So I think that's what makes it funnier at the end.
Like you would think that, and you would think that he would be more interested in the fact that the Citadel is trying to rebuild itself. Like, you just spent all that time destroying it. Why wouldn't you, like, care that they're trying to, like, rebuild? Wouldn't you want to go back in and just, like, continue to destroy it so that you don't have to deal with it anymore?
The mermaid puss?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say yeah.
That's more important.
Okay, come on. Someone might cite that. Someone might cite that later. Come on. Okay, so there you go. So April saying that line in the beginning and the framing device are out. Yeah. Okay, it's got it. Next up is John. What's your funniest gag of the episode?
I think it's the newscasters, the Rick D something A and B. Well, first off, the whole setup. It's basically, if Rick was a newscaster in real life, I want him to narrate my life, if that's going to be the way he does it. It's like, it's the Citadel Morning News, it's the news, the morning the Citadel, self-explanatory. And then specifically the part where they're telling the story about how candidate Morty is running his campaign, and they're not taking him seriously because why would you take a Morty seriously? It's ridiculous. But he's like, and there's this speech, man, God, what a jackass. He's saying, oh, I'm going to lose this race, blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, look how adorable he is. He's not going to win, but look how adorable. It's hilarious just because it reminded me of the Council of Ricks in the first episode where they're going, it's not fair, you have no rights, and that's not a lawyer, he's just there for fun. In the beginning, you still think, oh, Mortys are just here for fun, and the newscasters are bringing that back. Obviously, we know what happens in the end, but it was still. I just loved the gags was there. It was still, it's the rickiest newscast ever, and it was still great.
Yeah. The dick newscasters, basically, the AKA Rick. Yeah, same thing. So there you go. Yeah, that's a good one there. Okay, Brit, funniest gag of the episode.
My favorite gag of the episode is the one where they used the burp in the street name, where it was like Robert Fifth and Avenue.
Yes,
that was my favorite.
Wow. Okay, that was strong.
Good use of Rick's belch as a name.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that on the recap podcast. That was very good. Definitely getting points for the burp. Okay. Alex, what's your funniest gag of the episode?
My most audible reaction was when Rick D. Sanchez III showed up. Like in the factory, it's all normal workaday people, and then just this Rick in a purple jacket and top hat shows out of nowhere, and it's like, wait, did this just turn to a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory fanfic? And he goes through the whole, oh, you've been deemed worthy. You've been working here for 15 years. How have we not done something with you? And you're led to believe, oh, okay, yay, it's going to end up happy for this guy after all. And it just shoots him in the back of the head and turns him into a new simple Rick. It's just how ridiculous that character, in this world of ridiculous characters, is just a dude showing up in a top hat and turning this into a candy factory. Like, that was just amazing, that little aside.
Okay, this is the most flabbergasted I've been by our panel here in the history of this panel, and it's storied 7 weeks. This is the storied panel. This was handed to you, Alex. It was handed to each of you consecutively. You could have gotten a solid 10 points on this answer if you just said Simple Rick's, one of the funniest gags in the history of the show. None of you said Simple Rick?
Well, there was much more funnier gags in this episode.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, we kept thinking, I think what I was like, no, someone's totally else going to say that before me, so I'm going to pick something else.
I think you guys outthink yourselves on this.
I apologize for remaining original and creative
no one said
in my
the answer.
was expected of me.
By the way,
cookies aren't that funny. It's the cookie joke. Woo!
Also, Slow Rick, Tall Morty, that's a funnier gag, too.
I agree.
Did I graduate yet?
Alex, you said yourself when Simple Rick came on, and oh my God.
No, Simple Rick is emotional for sure, and I think it's a great part of the episode. But it's not funny enough, and that's what makes it a good gag.
I heavily disagree on this.
Rick loves Beth. Cool. We already knew this.
Okay, you guys are come on. You're losing points here. This is not good. Yeah, Simple Ricks is a top 5
We know
gag
what
in the history of the
answer would have
show.
been.
I know I'm not grading based on what I think, but sometimes the answer's so obvious. So I don't know about that. April, I was going to give a 4, but I'll give a 3 after that. Last
That's
line.
fine.
she's like, it was worth it.
She drank a can of soda just for this joke. You got to give her a little more credit than that.
That was Brit. Yeah.
Brit did.
Yeah. That was. Don't worry,
sorry.
Brit's getting her due. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Brit's getting a 6. Yeah. For the burp. Yeah. Okay. John said, I don't even remember what you said. I have 5 written down.
The newscasters.
Yeah, I did like the newscasters, but you're losing a point because you didn't say Simple Rick. 4. Alex gets a. I don't even know what to do for this one. I agree that character's good, but
and he is a gag basically. There's no
he's
depth.
basically
to him.
a gag.
A joke.
Yeah. I'll give a 3 to you. I won't be that hard. Okay. Just saying Simple Ricks isn't funny. Come on. What are you talking about? Okay. Let us know in the comments if you agree with me or our panelists here, because I need to know. Okay. So
He needs to be validated. Can you please do that?
Brit's definitely ahead after that answer. So let's continue.
If it makes you feel any better, Simple Rick is the most layered piece of humor in the episode. Not necessarily.
I will say I laughed harder during both Simple Ricks than I did for anything else on the episode. So I'm defending every aspect of my claim here. It's the funny, it's the smartest, the most layered, and the funniest. Okay. Anyway, let's continue. I also will say no one said Mermaid Puss for favorite line or gag. I think that would have qualified for either and would have been very good. So, no Mermaid Puss. I mean, come on. So let's continue here. Who was your favorite Rick of the episode? We had your favorite Morty. There are a lot of options for Rick. There's like 4 lines of options here on my paragraph of Ricks eligible. So, let's get into this. John, you're up first. Who's your favorite Rick?
I'm going to cause chaos by saying Cop Rick. I know I probably took off one name right off the bat, but here's the reason why I picked Cop Rick. He was probably the most Morty of any Rick we've seen, and he's partnered with a Morty who's the most Rick we've ever seen. Because here's the thing. When was the last time we ever heard of any Rick, our Rick, a Citadel Rick, a Council Rick, ever worry about stuff like departmental codes, not being offensive to Mortys, not wanting to do everything by the book? When have we ever seen that? It was such a unusual contrast to what we would normally think. We would never think that if any one of those guys is going to be the corrupt one who's going to take the money from the gangster in an effort to look away and just, put their gun in any Morty's mouth, you wouldn't think it's going to be the Morty. So having that in there and knowing that in this whole season, it's been about Morty sort of steadily becoming more self-aware and standing up more to Rick. And we just came off an episode where Rick was a bit more placid and a bit more easygoing. It just made it definitely made it a little more interesting to see a Rick in almost the secondary subservient role for a change, which has never been done before in the show and probably is never going to happen again. That's why I thought it was so interesting, and that's why I'm picking him.
Okay, that's an interesting choice. I didn't expect Cop Rick to get picked, but that was good reasoning there. Brit, who's your favorite Rick of the episode?
My favorite Rick of the episode is the Mortytown Loco Rick, who
The druggy Rick.
The druggy
Yeah.
Rick, who's like basically a meth shop dealer, whatever you want to call it, and his math was wrong because his homemade portal juice didn't work, and he just basically like burns up. But also, like, he basically just is gonna leave his Mortys and run from the cops. But my other part is when he says, "You're gonna lick my balls," and he says, "Shit, if you put down this shit, grandson, if you keep peeling squabs, I'll lick whatever ain't nailed down."
Yeah.
And he has no sleeves. He's literally wearing like a wife beater and has greasy hair, and it was funny.
Okay.
And I lived in Arkansas, so I thought it was extra funny.
Okay, that's good.
And it was like the most lowbrow I've ever seen Rick go.
And this is where we get all the hate mail from Little Rock.
Yeah. I don't think so.
All 3 people with an internet connection.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Oh, man, going for the kill. Okay, so there's Brit's response to that. We were Druggy Rick. I don't know what his official name is, but I've been calling him Druggy Rick. Let's go next to Alex. Who is your favorite Rick of the episode?
As a character, I quite enjoyed Factory Worker Rick. Just from the very beginning, he's introduced. You see the new director being introduced. He has a little smile on his face because later you find out he's been working there for 15 years, so he probably expected something. Then he gets ignored when he wants to ask a question. So it's just it represents well the drudgery of work, especially considering for a Rick who's not used to this kind of thing. Then just seeing how he breaks down and how they juxtapose his activity with the Morty speech, like making Ricks do these things that they're not meant to be doing, but because they bought into this whole Citadel system. And also his interactions with the SWAT team is great. I think he lets out another candidate for funniest line. A portal to the Blender dimension? Come on, that's the oldest trick in the book. Mm. So I enjoyed that part. And then just like his ending is almost sad in a way. The fact that he just ends up getting used by the system after all those years of service. He ends up getting turned into the simple Rick. Just so all in all, I think his character arc is the most emotional to watch in a way.
Okay, what is his identification number? Rick what's letter numbers? What is it?
Does he have an identification number?
Losing a point. J22. Come on. Okay.
J22.
We got April. April, who is your who's your favorite Rick of the episode?
My favorite Rick was D716, the newscaster Rick, because I really enjoy them, like, bringing home the disdain for Morty and that Mortys are beneath them. But I also enjoy that, like, he calls D716B, I don't remember, like an asshole or something like that. And then, they do the same thing with D716C. And I was just like, okay, if those other two have B and C, then they must have come from you somehow. And for you to hate your own creations is just hilarious. Like, you hate yourself that much. Got it. Like, it kind of like honed in that, like, Rick hates himself kind of thing in a very small, like taste, a sprinkle of it, if you will. So
interesting.
Plus I like how they just, ragged on politician Morty, or Evil Morty, as we also know him.
Yeah. April's like, I heard you lost points for the ID number. I'm coming prepared. So, April.
But that's what they're identifying as.
They're clearly identified. Yeah, they're more clearly identified. Yeah. Yeah, I like that interpretation of him. Those being creations of him. I think also could just be alternate reality versions of them. But yeah, not clear. So, but it's an interesting interpretation. Okay. All of you got 5 points except Alex, who lost a point on the ID number. Okay, so Brit is in the lead heading into. See, Andy's not here, so someone has to get the beating on this. All of you, Brit is in the lead heading into the weakest part of the episode. Everyone gave it an A, so this is gonna be a tough one. What is the weakest part of the episode? Brit, you're up first.
The weakest part of the episode, in my opinion, is when all the kids are standing around the wishing portal and they're wishing for things, and none of them wish for anything good. And I was really disappointed because Morty has like moments of depth, and we saw none of that except for in Sass Rick when he threw himself in. Like, incest porn, it was funny, but Lizard, he just wished for something better than a stupid surfer necklace, and then Fat Morty just wished for infinite sandwiches. Like, this is supposed to be like the climax of their arc,
yeah,
and it was kind of fell flat. Like, I was like, okay, what do these Mortys like want? What is their ultimate, drivers in life is their Mortiness? And all we got was sandwiches, porn, and a dumb neck.
Probably pretty accurate for
and
14-year-old
nihilism.
Yeah, and nihilism. That's true. Okay, so the trash dump wishing well seen for Brit. Alex, what's your weakest part of the episode?
It's also the Stand By Me kids plot. For me, the part that fell most flat was when they're around the campfire. Like, there was nothing really memorable that stuck out of there. The drama implant, I mean, it didn't really work for me. The vegetable line was good. The whole, like, if you're left-handed, you should use that to eat more vegetables. But other than that, it's just, I know what it was trying to go for. Like, the Mortys, like, trying to look for their purpose or like what they want in life. They're not sure yet. But it's not really that entertaining, and it just feels that's the only part of the episode that drags even a little in this episode.
Okay, the campfire scene, similar answers. April, weakest part of the episode.
So you guys will probably all hate me, but I did not enjoy that the setup for the Evil Morty reveal was very reminiscent of the very first episode where Evil Morty became a thing. I thought that was like they just like reused the idea that they had before, because in the first episode with Evil Morty, he was just like there. He was just another Morty. And then like at the end of it, they're like, oh, he's evil. And they play the music and he disappears into the crowd. And I was like, oh, and then as we were going on, it was almost the exact same thing. It was just like, oh, at the very end of the episode, we reveal that it's Evil Morty, but no one else knows. And his identity disappears. And I was like, really? Like, y'all can do better than this. Like, what is wrong with you?
Wow.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Is it the tipping off? Did you like the tipping off with the song for the damaged Coda? Is that part of it?
I liked that they reused that, but because that's kind of his theme. But like the whole like, oh, we reveal it at the end, and then like it was just very reminiscent of that first episode, and I felt that they could have done it in a different way that wouldn't have felt that they recycled the same episode over.
Interesting. I haven't thought about it like that, but
yeah, I'm just confused. What's actually the same? Because I feel like these are very different circumstances.
I mean, it is kind of the same reveal.
Kind
we're
of
just building up to a sinister Evil Morty reveal in both episodes. That is kind of true.
It's like they both had to fade out, and there really wasn't the lead up to bring Evil Morty back in. Sort of,
yeah. I mean,
see, I think this did the build up a lot better than the first episode, because now once you have the reveal, you can look back and you can see the signs. Whereas in the first episode, I feel like you didn't really get a big look at Morty before the reveal. So at least if it is a recycle, it's definitely an improvement at the very least.
Well, yeah, no, it's definitely an improvement, but it just felt very reminiscent of that first episode. And I was like, because, in that first episode, he's just another Morty. And then in this one, it's just, oh, he's politician Morty. And I mean, I guess he found like an identity. But even still, like, they never really said, like, oh, has he always been politician Morty? Or was he just a regular, like, run-of-the-mill Morty who decided to run for politics? Like, and I know that's getting a little bit deeper than, this whole show. But it just felt very, like, it felt almost too similar. Like, especially upon watching it over again, I was just like, oh, like, you did this kind of already before with Evil Morty. And, I mean, we went somewhere else with it, but, like... That's it.
Yeah, In the first time it's in the episode in the season 1. I think it's more of just like a little fun throw in at the end. That isn't really meant to like predicate the entire episode around it. And this time the whole episode is building toward it. But it is done in a similar way. Okay. Well defended at the very least. John, what's your least favorite? What's your weakest part of the episode?
I mean, I gave it an A, so it's kind of a nitpick for me, but. And here's the thing. This is one of those things I would never thought I would hear myself say, like, if you told me this 2 years ago, but I kind of wish this was the only voice we heard in this whole episode was Justin Roiland. Like, maybe instead of having Jeff Green do the advertising voiceover and have Beth's voice, you had maybe Roiland do maybe one more voice, because I thought he did so well in this episode, just his solo work. So maybe to have him go all the way through would have been even cooler, just because he's Rick, he's Morty. He could have been every character very easily. And again, why I'm surprised at this is because when I first heard his voice, it was as the Earl of Lemongrab in Adventure Time. I thought it was the most annoying voice I ever heard. And here I am saying I want 22 straight minutes of nothing but Justin Roiland. Because he was so good in this episode. I wanted just to have him go straight through and just marathon the whole thing. I thought that would have been the icing on the cake.
Can I just get lemon grab screeching for 22 minutes? I'd like that, yeah.
Unacceptable!
I mean, we already have Morty
It's a
screaming.
pretty good
That's pretty
impression.
much the same
It is
sound.
kind of the same sound, yeah.
It's more
Voice doesn't
muted.
crack as much as it used to. I don't know if you guys don't notice this because it's been like a long time for you, but I watch everything like really close together. His voice cracks a lot more and is more high pitched in the first season. And he's getting a little bit.
He's becoming a man,
Yeah.
okay?
He's becoming a man.
Yeah, it's
All
very
over
subtle
everything.
voice work by Justin.
Yeah.
He
Also,
just wants to play with
it's more
balls
mellow.
and masturbate, just like any other growing teenage boy.
I'd just like to provide a fact check. The only other voice was Jeff Davis,
yes,
not Jeff
it's-
Green.
it's-
Jeff
yes.
Davis,
And
thank you.
And also, Beth would have to be voiced by Rick. That would be interesting.
Yeah.
Beth
I mean, you
voiced
could
by
just
Justin
you could just
Roiland,
write
but-
it differently, but yeah, it's Jeff Davis doing a
Yeah.
Sam Elliott impression. I feel like that's a very vital part, that it's Sam Elliott, which is very funny. Okay. Yeah. So 4 for missing the name there for John. 4 for April. I very much disagree, but it was well supported. 4 for Alex. I don't even remember your answer at this point. Oh, you said
Campfire scene.
You said a similar thing to Brit. So Brit said it first. Brit is correct that Wishing Well Seen is the weakest part of the episode. Brit gets a 5 and it was well supported. Yeah, I mean, I recognize that I'm not in a position to fully, like, I either haven't seen Stand By Me or it's been a while, but, so it's definitely a straight parody, right, of that, so, but
Yeah, sort of. Rewatch it. It's a great movie.
yeah, there wasn't a ton of depth to that plot line. Okay,
But-
let's close things out here. Final chance. Brit is a big lead, but there's still time. Anyone could tank this answer. This is the blank best episode of season 3. So best, second best, worst, second worst, etc. So, let's start with April. This is the blank best episode of season 3.
I think this is the best episode of season 3, actually, which means a lot to me because I've been holding strong with enjoying the Rick Shake Redemption as my number 1 episode, but I think this one beat it out. So, best episode.
Best episode. Okay, John, what do you say on this?
I'm putting it in the number 2 slot. Actually, the number 1 was Rest and Rick's Laxation. Just again, this is a strong episode. If both of them were A's, but it's like that last week, 2 weeks ago, it was a 98. This one was a 97, basically, because I just loved how they're able to really dive into Rick and Morty's character. They spent a whole episode on that. It was just so insanely clever. This one was just as clever, but almost as clever. It was just as clever, but I just prefer the episodes with the solid focus rather than the spread. So that's why I'm having it in the number 2 slot. But it's different to degree. Both are so well ahead of the others right now.
Okay, John says second behind Rest and Rick's Laxation. Britt, what do you say? Blank the best episode of season 3.
I think it was the best episode of season 3 so far. Like, I would place it above, I'd post it above the Rick Shank Redemption. Just because you got more of everyone else, and it's not just Rick, like, holding the episode. And they did so much, and the scale was so, like, much grander, and it had so many funny lines, and it was just, like... I really liked the speech at the end, because I love, like, when Morty's evil. I don't know why I like when Morty's evil, but, like, evil Morty is, like, the shit. Oh my god, he's so cool, and he's, like, standing there, and, like, all the flags are going over, and he's, like, thinks about politics, order, brotherhood, and, like, you see the kids, like, cleaning up bodies, and you're like, dun, dun, dun! The next episode's gonna be the shit! So excited!
Yeah. Probably not going to pay off
That's how
next
I felt.
episode, but okay.
You don't think it's gonna be a payoff?
Not next episode.
Or this season.
This season, yeah.
Or this
Season, yes,
season?
yeah.
Mm.
Probably the finale.
This season's next, but not next
Yeah.
episode. Okay.
Yeah, we're getting a gimmicky episode next week, it looks like. Although, who knows? They misled us last time, so it's nothing's really clear.
Like, we thought
Not
that this
me.
was gonna be a gimmick episode. That was, like, great. They're gonna go to Atlantis.
Yeah. They got that mermaid post, yeah. Brit-
How do
Every
they...
week, you guys.
Whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you said they focus.
Doesn't it bother anyone else that he's like 14? He's going on adventures with his grandpa and a mermaid.
I think you just enumerated the entire show, but yeah, I guess it's more disturbing in this context. Yeah. You said this. You said more of everyone else besides Rick. I guess we get multiple Ricks, so kind of, but there's still a lot of Rick.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
We didn't get like one consistent Rick.
Yeah.
You know.
They're all different characters. Okay. Alex. You said it was the best episode of the show, so I assume it's the best episode of the season.
Yeah, I made my opinion very clear. Rick Shank Redemption, I was holding on for a long time as the number one, but I think this one is way better. I want to point to John. He said that for him, focus was better than spread, and I usually agree with that because the B plots of Rick and Morty, often they're of lesser quality. The few that are as quality as the A plots, like the Ricks Must Be Crazy, that's what makes that a top 5 episode. The fact that it's balanced. And here, the fact that you're treating 4 different plots and they all land. Even the Stand By Me kids has funny moments, and there's only one little scene that drags. So considering that it manages to cover so much and be entertaining and work up to a satisfying climax for 3 out of 4, that makes it one of the most amazing episodes of the show I've ever seen.
Wow, yeah, strong words here from Alex. Alex, this is the best animated episode of the year. This is the thing I've been thinking about.
Yeah, I honestly am leaning towards that right now. The BoJack Horseman episodes are probably in the running, and I could be swayed, but right now Rick and Morty is in the lead. Yeah,
it's this episode, the second last episode of BoJack, and Running with Scissors from Star are my ones I'm considering for that top spot right now. It's only September, and we have some really great contenders. Okay, don't want to get into social topic. I think we're going along here. Okay, so I was going to talk about the use of puss, and we talked about the bad use of pussy before. Any take on that, April? Is this a better use of that?
This is a better use of that, I think.
Yeah,
it's referring to the physical organ, not exactly to the other
right,
way.
And it wasn't used. It wasn't overused either. So I was
they say it a lot. They say it a lot.
Wait,
but not it wasn't overly used. It was just in that last bit, and they were like, "Yeah, that mermaid puss." I was okay with this one. It didn't rub me the wrong way. And I actually
it wasn't derogatory.
It wasn't derogatory. Is what it was. They were literally just describing the sexual adventures that they had in Atlantis.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of still in a sexist way, sexist towards mermaids, I guess, but it's definitely not the same as the previous pussy.
Wait,
I actually want to understand the mechanics of that.
Yes, thank you. How do you? That's what bothered me. It's if a mermaid has a puss. Is it around the fishtail?
Look, I think you guys are just watching The Little Mermaid wrong or something. I don't know, but this
apparently
it's an actual fish, or it's just
maybe it's fish
have genitalia.
Maybe it's the bottom. Maybe this one has a genitalia, but the top part is fish. I mean, that could work.
Look,
but then
they did do that on Family Guy, and it was really.
It's not a reverse mermaid. You guys are overthinking it. Okay,
it's where Family Guy makes more sense for
a change. Overthinking this. Okay, so I have 5 points. All of you nailed that last question. I definitely think it's the best episode of the season, but John's take is well supported now. So, and I think potentially episode 6 is the second best, although Rick Shank really good, Pickle Rick really good. I'm debating between this and Total Rick Ball for best episode of the show, so I'm right there with Alex. 5 points for all of you. Final scores: April 34, Alex 35, John 36, and our winner for this week, Brit, with 39 points. Woo!
Yay!
Yeah.
I won!
Brit, it's your FaceTime. 30 seconds. Talk about whatever Rick and Morty / other topic you want to talk about.
I am prepared for this because I didn't think I was going to win. So I'm just happy that I won. And I watched this episode 3 times, and I'm really tired. And I ate my dinner while this was going on, and my dog barked 50,000 times. My parents stopped screaming, but I still won.
Okay. Through adversity, she
overcame the challenges of life to bring you her fantastic win this evening.
Also, I liked the tattoos that the Logo Town Mortys had on the side of their face with the teeth and the jaw. It was gnarly.
Nice, yeah. Yeah. the MVP was definitely the burp answer. That definitely got the biggest plus minus on that question. So
like I got to burp. I got to do it.
always a plus with the on theme with Rick and Morty. Okay, so okay.
Oh.
You're welcome.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Always a good fart joke in there.
Yeah.
Belch joke. Bodily
Similar.
fluids.
Okay, so there you go. There's our panel. Let us know what you agreed with, what you disagreed with. Defend Simple Ricks in the comments, please. And in here, website, you can go to our website, YouTube comments. We're also on YouTube.
No one defends him.
And
Everyone tell Dylan he's wrong, please.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Just write in like a comment or an email.
Yeah, you can email too.
That says, Dylan, you're wrong. And that's the whole
we're
thing.
podcast@overlyanimated.com if you want to tell them. People frequently do that, email and saying I'm wrong. So it would be pretty normal. But yeah, we'd also
no explanation, just Dylan.
I
You're
would
wrong.
Know, yeah. Also, iTunes reviews would be very much appreciated, either on our Rick and Morty specific feed or our general feed. Please leave us iTunes reviews. We'll read them at the end of future podcasts. That's all here. We'll be back next week to discuss Morty's Mind Blowers. So our recap podcast on Monday night and our panel at some point during the week as well. Last thing is you can, the best way to support us would be on Patreon, patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thank you to all of our patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, Lily, aka Panda Lily, and thanks always to our patron executive producers. Thank you, Lily, and John, Ryan, Steve, Alex, and Andy. Definitely check out our BoJack Horseman coverage if you have not. That's going on, and a bunch of other stuff happening as well at overlyanimated.com. Branch off into new animated stuff there. Strong, and also strong contender with this episode to our we'll be counting down to our end of the year awards show as mentioned on the previous Rick and Morty podcast. Now that
we're getting dressed up, no one will see it.
Yeah, maybe.
Have we agreed on calling it the ovaries yet?
No, that's the unofficial name. It's the unofficial name. Okay, so I can't officially call it. Look, it's a serious award show with a storied 1 year history. Okay.
Hashtag ovaries.
Yeah, anyway.
Hashtag ovaries.
Is that similar to the mermaid push hashtag? Yeah, kind of similar. Okay, so there you go. Check all of that out, overlyanimated.com. And thank you guys very much for listening. We will see you next time. Bye.
Bye. I'll miss you.
Take care.